Hey, welcome back to AI Summit London. I'm Ben Wodecki, and this is the big one for me. This is the one I've been looking forward to all week. I'm joined by Kris Mathers, who, Kris, you're in the nuclear space.
Yes.
Talk me through what you do.
A lot of crazy things on a daily basis, is answer that question. A short, succinct answer would be trying to solve some of the world's most complex technical problems in some of the world's most hazardous environments. Mm-hmm. And more recently, attempting to try and utilize artificial intelligence to help us on that journey, mm-hmm, and help us better understand the job that we need to do and how we need to do it.
So you're a developer by trade as well.
Yes.
And we had a frank discussion earlier this year when we met about kind of what you do, what you're working on. Talk us through some of the solutions that you've kind of been designing, what you can, of course.
Yeah, so my developer journey started back in late 2019, and one of the first applications that I developed was a Google Sheet app script add-on which summarized the contents of the sheet and utilized the GPT-3 API to allow you to discuss and have a conversation with your spreadsheet data. That was a development of an idea of the professional work that I was doing. Unfortunately, in nuclear, things aren't as simple as they always be, so the development path wasn't able to continue. But the standalone product, while it was something I'm extremely proud of because of the constantly evolving AI space, within a couple of weeks there's 10 other things which are easier, cheaper, free, and development. One of the most frustrating things about developing in the AI space is the constant feeling of the work that you've done being trumped by something else, and a perfect example would be last night. Within the last 12 hours, OpenAI have changed the game. They've doubled the size of the context window for GPT 3.5 Turbo and released access to tools to everyone. And I imagine the next step of that development is to simplify that and make that code free. And when we get to that point, you've got everyone in the world who can use not just the world's best large language model, but wrap that with a framework that can do the specific job that they want to do with it.
Yeah. How many tools have you got to play with now? Because in the last 6 months, everything is being released, and I know you're very excited.
Yes.
How have you seen it shift, man?
So I think so personally, I've got a background where I did have a mental breakdown, and very, maybe 6-8 weeks ago, I assumed I was maybe close to having another, because I was constantly trying to keep updated with everything. And the rate and scale of improvement has made that impossible. And I literally went from a place where I was an 8 hours night of sleep, down to 7, down to 6, and I got to 4, and I thought, I need to stop doing this. Mm-hmm. So I've consciously taken a step back from the hands-on writing developer space, but keeping a main context overview of the developments that are happening. For anyone who's struggling with staying involved in the AI space, I'd highly advise it, just at least for a week or two. Try and regain some of your senses.
Mm-hmm. I think I've done it as well myself recently. Yeah. Kris, just so you're aware for our audience, you work at Sellafield, which is one of the biggest sites, nuclear sites in the UK, mm-hmm, but then you're also doing something else as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about nuclear AI?
Absolutely. So I'm currently partway through an attempt at trying to personally make an attempt at being the own king of my castle is the words I use, not the best professional context. The development of nuclear AI and the business that I've created, it's a personal journey for me because it starts at the lowest of the low, and this is a story which comes along with me. So the breakdown I mentioned, that was a bad spell that I went through about just over 2 years ago. But part of my treatment and getting better was I used AI to help me. I looked out to the leading the specialists in these fields. I simulated conversations between myself and them to get one-on-one personalized advice. I got advice on what the industry standards are to get personal advice for me to develop a framework. And it sounds a bit big-headed, and I really don't like saying these words, but in the last 2 years I've went from obese, alcoholic, extremely depressed. I finally reached out to the mental health crisis team. That's how bad I was. And in the previous 2 years, doing the things that I've been doing and utilizing these large language models in such certain ways, I've managed to reframe my life to the point where I now own my own business. I'm recognized as a specialist in the nuclear industry, in artificial. It's a very niche field, and it was something that was only my interest. And I've managed to transform myself in such a way that all these changes have happened. And if you took the person 2 years ago and told them I would be here today, having the pleasure of speaking to yourself.
Honestly, Kris, I'm so enamored with your journey, right? We met earlier this year at another event, and frankly, just the way you spoke about not only yourself, but how you approach AI was so refreshing, right? You made me laugh. We talk about a lot about AI, and it gets out of hand sometimes because we've gone for hours, so I'm worried about the length of this video already.
Of course.
So Kris, one thing that I was very conscious of is when we were at that event, we heard a speech from a neurodiverse developer from Dropbox, Jennifer Opal. She's wonderful.
Yes.
Talk to us about kind of your experiences with it and how it's kind of shaped your journey.
So I think I thought I was privileged or unique, let's say unique, not privileged, to have the experience and be able to see the things that I can see. But if we were to take a step back and look at all the people that are here present today, the people who are here present today are interested in AI. So to be here today, in terms of the natural distribution and the bell curve of the human population, almost everyone here today is in this bottom 2% of this corner because we live in this world. Because you need to be neurodiverse to be able to study something for a long time and become the best in your field at it. The fact that the people who are working on AI are working on AI, it's subconsciously and kind of behind the background, I believe it tells a lot about that personnel and the, not difficulties, I don't want to use that word, but the differences that they might have with their personality. And I believe that's why I believe we met, clicked off, because we're the similar type of people.
Yeah.
And it's STEM fields. People in the way that I believe that the way that the world has transformed over the previous, let's say, 5 years, the need for someone who can do that skill, who's got that ability to obsess over something, that's my superpower, the ADHD. If there's something I'm interested in, I'm like, all right, bye, Ben. And that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I can't control it. For 3 years now, that thing's been AI. I've had sleepless nights. It's for me, it's like a relationship with AI because it's helped me get to where I am. And part of my self-development and get better from where I have been includes helping others not accrue the similar scars to what I have. So the aspiration behind that is where I'm trying to get to are the models that I've created that help me. I'd like to open source them. There's a few developers present today who I've spoken to, who I've offered my details to and says, listen, I'll put this on GitHub for you, I'll share this with you. My business's purpose is the safe, ethical democratization of artificially intelligent products and services. And the reason that's worded like that is because not poverty, but I grew up as the kid who never really had much. I got a little bit teary last night when I sat down in the bar and I got given a free drink. Because when I was a kid, if I didn't go on, I won't go there, sorry, no.
No, you're okay.
When I was a kid, we didn't really have much.
Yeah.
I can remember, there's some stories, my upbringing wasn't standard, which is probably the reason I've got the issues I have, because working through the process that I went through as part of this self-betterment and the self-development, it helped me understand and unpack unresolved childhood trauma. And the most recent professional that I've spoke to emulates the words that we discussed, and his professional opinion is that it doesn't have to be childhood trauma, but because of the way that the world's been since COVID, all the uncertainty that happened, the way that the rules changed overnight, the way that everyone in the earth had to adapt the way that they lived and the rules kept on getting changed, that's created something which a lot of people, if you look at the figures, the amount of people who have left their partners, who have started a new job, who have just given in because they've realised, you know what, life's more than this. From where I was to where I've come, it saddens me to know that there's people still in the position where I was. Yeah. And if I can do anything to try and help those people, that's my ambition in life, and that's what I want to do.
And that's what's so powerful about what you do, right? And how you perceive and how you interact. Honestly, your journey is incredible. I'm keen to work out as well, Kris. What's coming next? What do you want to do next? What's coming up?
That's a difficult question to answer because I think because of my personal difficulties and differences, difficulties, I'm non-standard. Yeah. Everyone else around here is wearing a suit. I've come in me.
But that's you. That's you're showing authentic. Your personality, and you're showing a true, authentic self.
Part of the process that's got me from where I am to where I was is understanding that it's not healthy to wear a mask. And that's why sitting here I'm comfortable being who I am, and whether you're a journalist, a cleaner, the king of the world, it's the same conversation. I don't wear a mask. I am who I am, and that's probably part of the problem. It's difficult to move forward. But in a professional context, yes, I do. I'm not set up like everyone else. My current ambition and way of moving forward is just attempting to help as many people as possible, and that gives me happiness. That gives me joy. I'm currently working with an online international personal trainer in an attempt to try and reach more people and help more people in that way. I don't think that'll be the answer, and that's not necessarily the way forward professionally for myself.
Yeah.
Professionally in nuclear and the AI space, we have a problem which I believe if that problem was solved, it would solve everyone else's problem.
Yeah.
And that problem is the security of our data. We can't share that on the internet. We need something which is locally hosted. But if you expand that theory and that question and that thought of not sharing data with anyone, and you go down that rabbit hole and you think about the thought processes, if you could solve that problem, everyone else would like that solution.
Sure.
So that's the area and the direction in which I'm developing. There's 2 or 3 models which I have got from the open source community, which I've developed further. We're currently in the testing stage, trying to get some useful outputs from that model, those models. Mm-hmm. It looks exciting, and I think that's the direction of the future for nuclear AI.
Yeah, because your excitement gets me excited. That's what I love. I get an email. I get an email from you, and it's like a giddy teenager. Hey Ben, I've got this great idea. Look at this software system underlying bam bam bam, and I'm just like, Kris, oh my goodness, this is great. And I wish we could talk about it so much more, and we probably will. And it's gone on long enough. But I want to ask you finally, Kris. Your journey is an important one and an integral one, in my opinion. Would you mind addressing the audience and just kind of talking through about the advice if someone is feeling the way that you have felt, or also if they're struggling with their their neurodiversity in terms of in the AI space? What can you impart, my friend?
Well, for me, my personal journey has been a difficult one. It starts in a bad place, and if there is anyone out there currently in that place, I would be honoured to help. Part of my journey is, as I said, trying to help others not accrue the same scars. Everyone has access to something like ChatGPT. Everyone can use a large language model to try and answer some questions, simulate a conversation. That's a good starting point. It's not perfect, but the moral, ethical dilemma there and the thought process you must go through is, are you comfortable sharing that information with an external provider when you don't know what's happening with that data? That goes back to the locally hosted stuff. I disregarded my concerns about the ethics and the security because of the position I was in. But because of that, every decision I've made in the future, that's been a context that I've took into account. And that started about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So for anyone who is struggling, please, if you'd like to, please reach out. The amount of friends and family members who have contacted me about, oh, so you've now got ADHD. Oh, I think maybe this, I think maybe that. If I was to sit down and show you the WhatsApps on my phone and just go through the top 10 conversations, 8 of them are of people who are reaching out for some assistance. And the assistance I'm giving them is 90% professional advice, but the other 10% is, oh, I'm not sure on that. I'll go and ask some questions. I'll consult this large language model. And that I am able to give solutions that I can't give without. Mm-hmm. And even that's such a transformational change, and it allows so much more. And the way that the world looks and the way that the world's going to be, the way that people are going to act and behave because things are going to change. We don't know what we don't know, are the words that I use. Think of a world prior to the internet. We didn't know there was going to be Amazon. We couldn't conceptualize it because we didn't know what the internet was and what that would enable. We're in the same place right now. There's a few of us that understand it, and a lot of them are here, but to the general public, GPT chat just come out 6 months ago. AI is just a relatively new thing. It's not 3 years old and all the development that's happened. So there's a public perception part that needs worked on also.
And there's a lot to come. But I'm excited by your excitement. That's what excites me.
One further thing on the 2 tools that I used to start with, there was 2 online products which One's called Understand Yourself, which asks you 100 questions and assesses your responses with 10,000 random responses around the world. That was the first piece of work that I'd done which told me I had a problem. It was conscientiousness. In terms of my percentile, I was in the 0.002nd percentile. So if there was 2,000 people here and you took the most conscientious person out first, I'd be the last one standing here by myself. And that's because I overcommit, because I undervalue myself and I'm trying to impress everyone. It's when you unpack these things, you manage to figure out things about yourself, which makes your life narrative different. The best way I could possibly explain my transformation was, I was the guy who got up and I resented the fact I had to set an alarm to go and work for someone else all day in that place where I didn't want to go, and it took me an hour and 20 minutes to get there and 45 minutes to get home. I had to paying for this mortgage over my head, and I don't really like the house, and I've got these 2 cars only because I need them. We're in this lifestyle, and I hated and resented every aspect, and I complained inside my head to myself. I wake up now every day and I get up and I go to the gym and I run 5 kilometers every morning, because while I'm on the treadmill, I think about the day ahead.
Yeah.
The way that I've lost 4.5 stone, but 99.9% of the changes are in there. The 1% is just, it's a byproduct of the weight loss, but that's what people comment on. And there's a lot, for me personally, if I could help anyone try and help have the same journey that I've had, then I'd be honoured to. And that's kind of what I want to try and affect positively going forward.
Kris, you're a real inspiration, honestly. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure's mine.